Maybe I can. Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I want to talk about what I think we ought to do with the ARPA funds, and I think have some other folks who have some other great ideas. The point is that we need to do something to address the needs of Pennsylvanians right now, not wait. And doing something, we can disagree, we can argue, we can debate as to what the best use of those dollars are. What isn't something we ought to do is nothing. We should not do nothing. I know I just used double negative there, I'm sorry, but I meant we should not do nothing. Over the past 7 years, Pennsylvania has experienced, as you know, a lot of challenges, but we've had a lot of victories too. When I took office, our Commonwealth was in a bad financial position. During my 7 years as governor, I've helped Pennsylvania get our financial house in order. I inherited a structural budget deficit, but I am going to leave office with a structural budget surplus. In fact, I'll be the first governor since Dick Thornburg in 1987 to leave a budget surplus to my successor. My administration prioritized financial and fiscal responsibility from the start, and those efforts put us on a path to a stable financial future well before Pennsylvania saw a dime of federal money for COVID relief. I want to point that out. We actually started turning a surplus and putting money into the rainy day fund before COVID hit and before the federal funding came. Now, federal funding certainly helped us weather a global pandemic, but it took strategic and sound fiscal decisions over the course of the past 7 years to put us on a path to the budget surplus we have today. We've turned our finances around, and we've done it because we've made major investments in the people of Pennsylvania, including historic investments in basic education. To date, we have put nearly $2 billion into our schools, into our students. That's a record for 7 years. Last year, we put over $400 million into basic education. That is a one-year record. In addition to making major investments in health care, business growth, workforce development, and much more. We've done all those things. We've come a long way in 7 years despite the challenges we face all throughout that 7 years, and especially despite the challenges over the past 2 years with the COVID pandemic. And part of that is due to the investments we have made in supporting the people of Pennsylvania. In 2020 and 2021, we drove out relief money, including both state and federal dollars, when Pennsylvanians needed it most. We did that through the CARES Act funding. We did it through the American Rescue Plan. In particular, we provided rental and mortgage assistance to low-income households. We allocated $225 million in funding for small business assistance. We provided $50 million of hazard pay for frontline workers. These are just examples of what we did. And we supported our agriculture industry. We supported healthcare providers, arts and cultural organizations, child care providers, first responders, and a whole lot more. Those investments helped Pennsylvanians survive the pandemic. But our Commonwealth is sitting on more money and millions of dollars more that could actually, additional federal aid, that could actually help Pennsylvanians thrive. And that money is sitting around right now, about $2.2 billion of it right now, not helping anyone. And at a time when the people of this Commonwealth are still hurting from the pandemic, I think that's wrong. It's past time we take action to do something about it. And that's why today I'm unveiling my action plan and my proposal for how the legislature could use the millions of dollars of remaining American Rescue Plan relief money to help Pennsylvanians who need it right now. We need to get this money out the door so that people who are hurting right now get the relief right now they need. So let me give some examples of what I think we ought to do. First, we ought to take action to help people who are still hurting, and that's why I'm proposing a Pennsylvania Opportunity Program. And that will serve as a one-stop shop to help Pennsylvania workers and families get back on their feet. This is a $500 million program that will help families and workers afford child care, after-school care, pay for education and training to increase their wages, pursue better jobs, and cover basic household expense like transportation, food, housing, utilities, broadband. Second, I want to increase relief for the low-income renters and homeowners with a $204 million investment to expand the property tax and rent rebate program just this year $204 million on top of what we do every year through the Department of Revenue to provide more relief for Pennsylvanians. I also want to invest an additional $225 million in the successful COVID-19 Small Business Assistance Program that the Department of Community and Economic Development so successfully promoted last year. It's not only going to bring more needed relief to small business owners, but it's also going to support important job opportunities in local economies by creating a lot of these things. So the PA Opportunity Program, $500 million, more investing in rent relief and in property tax rebates, and providing assistance to small businesses. We can help with all those things. Pennsylvania is struggling because of the pandemic, get back on their feet. Next, to move forward, we also need to invest more in our healthcare workforce. Last week, as you all know, I signed House Bill 253, which provided needed support to help relieve the strain on our healthcare system. Republicans, Democrats, we all came together to recognize the need to continue to support directly our healthcare system, including our workers. We also need to pave the way for a longer-term COVID-19 recovery, in addition to what we did last week. We'll do that with additional investments in healthcare systems and, most importantly, again, in our healthcare workers. I want to invest another $325 million in long-term recruitment, retention, and workforce development for the long-term care and healthcare industries, as well as expanding support for behavioral health programs and expanding student loan forgiveness programs to offer forgiveness to more critical healthcare workers. And there's more. Looking ahead, Pennsylvania needs to invest in conservation, recreation, preservation, and community revitalization projects to address the threat of climate change. Climate change is already hurting Pennsylvania communities, and we cannot afford to delay our work to lessen that damage. And that's why I'm proposing a Growing Greener 3 initiative, a $450 million investment to support projects that fight climate change and protect Pennsylvanians from climate threats. Growing Greener 1 and 2 were bipartisan efforts. It's been done in the past. I think the first one was done during the Ridge administration. We can do this without borrowing any money, using ARP funding to actually get this money, $450 million, out to do things that we know because of the pandemic people want. They used our parks. They want to be outdoors. They want a clean environment. Those things were important during the pandemic, and I think we learned how important they really are to Pennsylvanians. So my plan not only helps Pennsylvanians recover and rebuild financial security for themselves and their family, it looks ahead and makes serious investments that will help improve quality of life for the Commonwealth for generations to come. While I believe this is how I believe our federal dollars should be used to help Pennsylvanians, I know that my Democratic colleagues in the House and the Senate also have great ideas and great proposals too. You'll hear about them in a minute. And I am open to any plan that puts dollars back in the pockets of Pennsylvanians who are struggling right now. The most important thing for us is to take action. Get this funding out to the door to people who need it most right now. All of the plans presented today will make a difference for Pennsylvanians, and all of them are infinitely better than doing nothing with the money meant to help people of Pennsylvania. Right now, nothing is the only plan I've seen from the other side. Am I missing something? Okay. And nothing, I think you'll hear from the rest of us, nothing is unacceptable. These investments are needed right now to put money back in the pockets of Pennsylvanians struggling with rising costs. And we can get this done. We can get this money to the people who need it right away. The General Assembly does what we did last week, stands right with me and with Democrats to get this money out. So I want to thank my Democratic colleagues in the General Assembly for their support of programs that will make a difference for Pennsylvanians. And I encourage all of our Republican colleagues to help get this relief out now. Take action. Make the funding program, these programs, your top priority. Republicans, Pennsylvanians cannot afford to wait. So thank you. And now I'm going to turn things over to Imani Cameron, who's a single mother, a full-time student, and a full-time worker, a student at Shippensburg University, and a full-time worker. So Imani, the podium is all yours.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Imani Cameron, but you can call me the Hat Lady. While the hats I wear aren't visible, I wear them proudly and daily. I am a senior majoring in social work at Shippensburg University. I am the Vice President of Internal Affairs. I work a part-time job at Families United Network, but my favorite hat is what I wear as a mother, a single mother, a mother to an energetic 5-year-old. Yes, 5, and boy, does she keep me busy. That's a lot of hats, and many of you may be wondering how one gets all that done daily while navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's a great question. And the honest answer is, how can I not? I started college. I have to finish. I was elected to student government. I have to keep my word to my constituents. Life necessities are not cheap or free. I have to work, and I have to be the best role model to my daughter. And with all the aforementioned, do you know it's still not enough? The roadblocks keep coming and the hurdles get higher. So I pose another question. Why? When I choose not to be a victim of my circumstances or society, I face many challenges. Why are more people not able to go to school while still providing for their families? Better yet, why is there no supports in place to help the working family succeed? The difference a degree can make on a person not just impacts them, but their family as well. And supporting the governor's proposal will allow for the working class people to create intergenerational wealth by supplying opportunities for hardworking families to obtain their degree, as well as have relief from the high cost of childcare and other daily life expenses. Today's proposal allows Pennsylvanians to know that they still matter. In 2020, when we all experienced unprecedented challenges, and some continue to experience the lasting effects of the pandemic today, many hardworking Americans mustered through to work to make sure there was food on the shelves in the grocery store, or worked countless shifts at assisted living facilities taking care of their grandparents and parents. Today, I ask you to support the governor's proposal because it is time. Time to help our working families. It's time for us to alleviate barriers that prohibit the working class people from excelling. By doing this, we are setting Pennsylvanians up for a better tomorrow, where stories like mine are not just one in a million, but instead an example of what the future can be. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Imani. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jay Costa, and I have. It's not IUP. It's still state-related. That's important. Or state system, excuse me. But I think her story was compelling. As I indicated, my name is Jay Costa, and I have the privilege of serving as a Democratic leader in the Pennsylvania Senate. And I'm honored to be here and joined certainly by my colleagues on both sides of the aisle and all the secretaries from the governor's cabinet to talk about and lend our support to the governor's plan. It's comprehensive, it's impactful, and as he indicated, it's needed now. The American Rescue Plan was designed to rescue Americans, and Pennsylvania's allocation along those lines was to serve us, not to sit in our coffers. We are recovering from a pandemic that has continued for nearly 2 years now. Industries have suffered and, quite frankly, changed themselves irrevocably. Individuals have been laid off. They've been faced with adversity we've never seen before. They're learning new skills, they're learning and entering new careers, and they're struggling to find child care, and some are even choosing to leave the workforce. We are at a time of upheaval and great change, and it's our duty as elected officials, to step in and help folks who need that help, as we just heard. Whether someone owns a business, works for someone in a business, or wants to learn a new skill to be able to operate their own business, we need to create and understand the need for programs. We need to fund programs to lend that hand. As was indicated earlier, the Senate Democrats have been asking for, along with our House colleagues, we've been actually begging our colleagues over and over again to support a program similar to what the governor's talking about today. We have programs that are essential to the people we have to talk about and work with every day, and we need to continue to design them, as the governor's laid out, to be able to provide the support that's along those lines. Governor, I'm happy to support the programs you laid out and the plan you laid out, and you can count on us for our votes to be able to support it when it reaches the Senate floor. We're particularly grateful that the governor has decided to expand upon and continue to recapitalize, I should say, a program that was really part of what Senate Democrats have advocated for previously, and that is resources into extra small and disadvantaged businesses that my colleague Senator Hughes, I'm sure, is going to talk about. That program was very successful, and it reached those small businesses that were left out, and the disadvantaged communities were left out by the federal programs, which is extremely important. But there are a lot of other investments that are in this plan, and I think it's important for all of us to recognize, as was mentioned, that we're going to include healthcare workers. These are the folks for over 2 years now stood on the front lines of a crisis, was mentioned, taking care of our parents and our grandparents. And again, we're asking them to continue to be able to do that, and they are. They've given their blood, their sweat, and their tears to be able to work along those lines to make sure that that health care services were being provided. These workers have invested their time, as I mentioned, but now it's important for us to recognize that we appreciate and we recognize how important the work that they did along those lines. And this type of a program that's talked about, one integral part of this, is going to be able to do that. Now, I expect our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are going to say that we need to squirrel this money away. That's not what we should be doing. The governor has indicated he's expanded greatly the rainy day fund, but we expect to have in excess of $7 billion available and be at our disposal as we go forward. I ask you to think about the folks who are working in the healthcare delivery system in my home community of Pittsburgh, at the many hospitals and nursing homes, or the folks who are struggling with their small businesses trying to stay afloat. Ask them whether or not we need these resources. Ask them whether or not it's appropriate. Ask them whether it's raining for them. Those are the folks we're trying to reach. And to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I would very simply say that this is a thoughtful program. It is well-reasoned and supports the people we need to reach. And at the end of the day, doing nothing is not an option. We must do something for the people of Pennsylvania. Governor, thank you for the opportunity to be able to support your program. It's now my honor to introduce and support my colleague on the Democratic leader of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, Joanne McClinton.
Thank you, Governor Wolf, for bringing us all here this afternoon, and to each and every one of your leaders that are present. Thank you all for your service, and to my colleagues that are here. We are here today because it is very important that we let people across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania know that we are continuing this fight for every single one of our working families in every corner of the Commonwealth. Last week, we were able to accomplish something great. We worked across the aisle, across the chambers, and we delivered for health care workers and for the hospital associations, for the healthcare systems across our Commonwealth. The question today, on Groundhog Day, Senator Hughes, is can we get this done again? Are we able to deliver again? In 2021, our President, Joe Biden, and our Vice President, Kamala Harris, worked hard in Washington, D.C. They worked across the aisle, in the Senate, in the United States House of Representatives, to let them know that the American Rescue Plan was needed. It was needed now more than ever before. And when you look at the allocation that we received in this Commonwealth, $7 billion, money that we can use to stimulate our economy, to help the small businesses back in Southwest Philadelphia who call my office and say, when is the grant program reopening? To be able to help those folks on the front line. We might see fancy commercials about them next weekend, but we don't want to just see a commercial. We want to give the frontline workers the hazard pay that they deserve, the raise that they are deserving of. And now it's better than later. We could say, let's wait and see what happens next year. Let's wait and see what happens the year after that. Or we can be responsible stewards and rise to the occasion of the third year of this pandemic, being responsible and introducing the governor's plan, implementing the plans, whether it's the one that we rolled out last spring or that our colleagues in the Senate Democratic Caucus rolled out. Regardless of what the priorities are, it's a shared goal, and that goal is being responsive to the need of the hour. No one's going to say it better this afternoon than Imani just stated. There are so many working parents across the Commonwealth trying to move ahead in life that are being held back. We can rescue them now. Why wait until the next pandemic, until the next set of unprecedented times? Or why don't we go ahead and respond now? And with that, I'll turn it over to my West Philadelphia neighbor, the Appropriations Chairman in the Senate Democratic Caucus, Senator Vincent Hughes.
Thank you, Leader McClinton. Mine, you need to get her contact information, all right? And if she doesn't respond, I'll take care of it. Thank you, Governor Wolf, and your cabinet for standing with us at this moment, for having us join you to talk about your priorities. Thank you to my colleagues, Chairman Bradford, Leader McClinton, Leader Costa, for once again being together to talk about making sure that in this historic moment we provide a historic response for the needs of the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is a historic moment. We have historic budget excesses. We have unspent American Rescue Plan dollars that President Biden and Vice President Harris required us to spend to help the people of Pennsylvania. But unfortunately, far too many of those resources are left sitting unspent. We have a growing economy in Pennsylvania. Thank you, Governor Wolf. A growing economy that allows for budget surpluses, budget excesses, not including the rainy day fund, to be at or near the projected amount of $7 billion. And I know for many of you gathered here, you're not used to that kind of conversation. Leader Costa, now we're discussing the matter. We are not used to having these kinds of conversations about having these kinds of extra dollars available to put to the needs of Pennsylvania's people. I'd like to focus on an incredible success story that happened here in Pennsylvania. Leader McClinton talked about it. The governor mentioned it as well. The small business grant program that we established here in Pennsylvania was the first of its kind in the nation. And let me underscore, Secretary Davin, let me underscore, I said grants, not loans. Grants, not loans. Grants, not loans. 3 times, because they say you have to say it 3 times for it to sink in. We created a grant program here in Pennsylvania for the small businesses of Pennsylvania so that they could access capital, dollars, into their businesses to help them, to provide some relief for them. And that $225 million, and that's about to grow another $20 million, Leader McClinton, all right? We helped 11,000 businesses across Pennsylvania. And we're not talking about chain operations. We're talking about the barbershop, the beauty salon, the tire repair, the auto mechanic, and all of those businesses that are the lifeblood of our neighborhoods and our communities. We created a diverse program, a diverse business program, a historically disadvantaged business program that made sure that black and brown and women-owned businesses got to the front of the line, not pushed back to the back of the line, and they got real dollars. Over 50% of the businesses that were helped in the Small Business Grant Program were women-owned businesses. Over 50% of those businesses were women-owned businesses. And the governor's proposal, and we stand with him shoulder to shoulder in supporting of that, is to drive another $225 million into that program. That program is state-of-the-art. That program is modeled in other states around the nation. That program is referred to by President Biden and Vice President Harris as the way to go to get help for these small micro businesses. They don't have any more than 25 employees. They certainly don't have $1 million in annual revenue. It's all less than that. But these are the businesses that make our communities grow. If you were to travel to southwestern Pennsylvania, if you were to travel to the great northeast of Pennsylvania, in fact, if you were to travel a couple blocks away from this capital, the worst thing that you can see on a business corridor is a shuttered business. It's the worst thing that you can see. but we prevented a lot of those from happening through the Small Business Grant Program, and we intend to do that again. Grants, not loans, to micro businesses to give them the help that they need. They caught hell during this pandemic, and our job is to respond to them. We did it once, we can do it again. And thank you, Governor Wolf, for proposing that today. We're proud to stand with you on this concept, this program, and the rest of your platform that you've talked about today, and more, that's that word, more that you will introduce on February 8th. Without any further ado, I'd like to bring my friend and my colleague. We were just together this past Monday talking about education, the chairman of the House Democratic Appropriations Committee, Representative Matt Bradford. Matt.
Thank you, Senator Hughes, Governor Wolf, leaders Costa and McClinton. This is a time where Amani, I think, actually first and foremost talked about the need. You know, there's people that have been impacted so much in COVID by the last 2 years. Putting human face on the challenges is first and foremost. So the need is obvious. In the proposals, House Democrats had a Pennsylvania recovery plan. I know the Senate Democrats had something similar. The governor's adding his voice to the choir about what we should do. I think those individuals have already spoken so well on these topics. So I don't want to retrace that ground. I want to cover the next thing is, what is the alternative? What is the alternative that our Republican friends and colleagues across the aisle are offering? And what I would say, in light of those human stories, in light of the sacrifice and suffering felt by many Pennsylvanians, what you hear is nothing. You don't hear a response, you don't hear a plan. Senator Costa rightfully said, you're going to probably hear them opine that there's some long-term demographic challenge that we face. And they're not wrong about that demographic challenge. Let me tell you, in a building where for the first decade I served, the only horizon people looked at for the budget was June 30th and how to somehow say this budget was balanced. Well, now, thanks to great financial stewardship, we now find ourselves with balanced budgets. And we can figure out how to balance our budget year to year. But we've gotten so used to saying no that when we have money in the coffers to address the long-term concerns, to make the smart investments in human capital and small businesses, as Senator Costa has pointed out, we no longer even seem to have the imagination or the creativity or the political will to listen to the suffering and concerns of our constituents and to address these challenges. We have the resources thanks to federal leadership. We have the long-term sustainability thanks to statewide fiscal leadership. So I say, when are we going to show the political will to actually put these dollars on the street, to give a little bit more, to tell people that we can be a partner in this? The silence on the other side is appalling. It is their obligation, frankly, to show what their idea is, what their answer is. Leaving this money in the bank forever without any clue about how to do it just simply is tone deaf to the concerns of too many Pennsylvanians. So again, I want to thank our Senate leadership. I want to thank the governor for his continuing leadership. And I want to thank those out there advocating for a real solution to help people when they're challenged the most here in Pennsylvania. So thank you, Governor, for putting this together today. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to the governor. I know he's willing to take some questions. And again, thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Governor.
Happy to take questions. Yes.
Governor, this was hinted at all throughout the last several speakers, but the GOP has said in the last week, even the last couple of days, for instance, the plan by Senate Democrats to spend $3.75 billion outstrips revenue capacity. They point to the IFO report that shows that we could be entering a deficit in the next couple of years. So what is your plan to help bring them around to your side?
Right. Well, first of all, let me point out that I do what I did when I owned a business, and that is every morning I sit down and I look at what the revenues are. In this case, the tax revenues by category every day. I look at what our cash balances are, and I've followed that ever since I started this job. So Pennsylvania is in a strong financial position. Yes, we benefited from a strong economy. Yes, we benefited from CARES Act dollars going into the pockets of Pennsylvanians and ARPA money going into the pockets of Pennsylvanians. But that ARPA money is not meant to be used in our budget. It's not meant to be used to plug holes, except for holes that were caused by the pandemic. It's not meant to go into the rainy day fund. None of that money is meant to go into tax reductions. It's meant to go to help people. And that's what we need to do. So the what we're talking about, what I'm proposing was about $1.7 billion. We have 2.3 billion left in ARPA money. Now, our cash balance in the general fund as of yesterday was actually $9.3 billion. 9.3 billion. Now, that changes from day to day, and we're at the low point of the year right now. That'll go up to $13 to $15 billion probably in June or July. We have funding, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this ARPA money. This is money that was used, was given to us by the federal government. They gave us $7 billion. We have used 5 of it to deploy against ARPA. We have this money. It's sitting there, and as numerous speakers have said, we need to make sure it gets into the hands of the people and the businesses who need it. And that's what I'm proposing, and that's what they're proposing. Mark.
Hello, Governor. Thank you. If I understand your proposal correctly, there are a couple of ways in which this money goes for expenses. One is to pay for business expenses, and the other for workers to pay household expenses. Given that's a fairly vague category, can you explain what are the parameters for something like that?
Well, let me start with the households. It's up to $2,000 for households at $80,000 of annual income or less. With the money that I'm proposing, $500 million, that would be, well, if you do the math, at least 200,000 households that would serve. 250,000 households. It depends on, when they make their application, it depends on what it is they see as their household needs. If a household is actually, has a bigger child care expenditure than maybe another household. I mean, Imani's household is going to have different needs than maybe her neighbor. And it'll be up to them to say, here's what I need to get by. Here's how I've been affected by the pandemic, and here's what I need to get back on my feet. That's going to vary from household to household. And as we go through that application process, I'm certain that there will be different different levels and different categories in each one of those. On the business side, the money is going to go out exactly as it did in the past. We'll be using community development financial institutions to help, again, with what the specific businesses need, given how they were affected by the pandemic. They will be different from business to business, but I think, as a number of speakers said, the program that the Department of Community and Economic Development oversaw a year or so ago is a national model. We didn't have any problem getting that out or making sure it got into good hands, and I think we'll do, we're sure we've learned some things, we'll do an even better job on this round. Yes?
I guess I want to follow up on that. So for the personal assistance you're talking about, is that targeted to families, or could senior citizens be eligible for that? And then on the business side, is it businesses that have not been eligible? Because we heard, like, from the restaurant industry last week that a lot of them did not get any assistance in any of the programs. So would they be?
Yeah, they'd be eligible. I mean, it's small businesses. We're not distinguishing between restaurants or non-restaurants. We are giving to small businesses who have been affected, and they're absolutely right. The program was oversubscribed, so we know it was a winner, and it was well received. We also know that there's a need out there, that businesses were affected by the pandemic, and you're right, they were affected in the hospitality industry as much as any place. But as Senator Hughes said, barbershops, flower shops. I mean, everybody, these small businesses that are the heart and soul of our communities were really affected. We want to help, and this money is there. It's available. Let's use it.
So if you got money before, would you be eligible to get another grant? That's always a question.
We take a look at it. I think what, based on need. So if we did a good job the last time and the money was used appropriately, it's up to $50,000, I think, per business. So if it was used appropriately and it really got those businesses out of the hole, then maybe they don't need it this time around. They wouldn't be automatically disqualified if they got it, but again, they're going to have to show need in the application. My sense is that the oversubscription meant that there were people who just didn't get anything, and we need to make sure that we help them. I'm an old man, Jan. You got to have to remind me what was the other question?
The assistance for the what do you call it, the opportunity program, is that for just families, or is it senior citizens, or who would be eligible?
It's for households. So yeah, it can be senior citizens. We figure there are about 3 million households at under $80,000 a year in income, and those of all ages, all demographics. So they have to apply. Yes.
Clarify, would those be direct payments or grants, or how would that money?
I'm sorry?
For the personal expenses.
What was you said direct payments or grants?
No, I'm sorry, it would be direct payments or grants. How would that money be divvied out to people?
I'm not sure what the distinction is between direct payments or grants. They are direct payments, yeah. Yeah, they are. Yes.
Obviously, you've given money out through grants previously. They mentioned the small business, and you mentioned the restaurants. Obviously, we've had businesses that got grants and closed, and obviously that suggests you need to give out more money. But what is your thought on, is there any clawback provision to try to, if a business took a grant and then laid people
That's a
off?
good question. I'm not sure we had clawback provisions. We are trying to get the money out. And you're right. Sometimes we didn't succeed. I mean, this grant of $50,000 or up to $50,000 is not sufficient. But in some cases, it is necessary. So in combination with some good management and some smart decisions, the idea is that this will help. It's not that this is automatically going to save every business that it goes to.
Do we have any kind of scorecard that says, we've given out this many grants?
Yes, we do. I'm sure you do.
We've got good data.
And I don't know what that is, but if you want that, I'm sure Department of Community and Economic Development can give it to you. Anything else? Yeah.
Could you elaborate then on the conservation and what you're talking about there? Because this does sound like this is a new use for the money that we haven't heard before.
It's new in that we didn't do it with the last money. But again, ARPA funding is intended to be used for things that have some relevance to the pandemic. And as I said in my comments, what we saw during the pandemic is a lot of people were using our state parks. A lot of people got a real appreciation for our environment. A lot of people were benefited from having a strong outdoor system, and Growing Greener 3, which is what this would be invested in those very things that help people make it through the pandemic. Again, it's one of a range of things that I'm proposing we ought to be investing this ARPA money in, and I think it's really important. It really was important to individual Pennsylvanians. Simply, they voted with their feet. They used those parks. They used our outdoor space. Yeah, Mark.
I realize this isn't the state budget itself, but do you see this as something you're going to be negotiating sort of like on the table during those talks? Is that why, does that account for the timing of this a week before your budget address?
No, what accounts for this is I think this is separate and apart from the budget. These are ARPA dollars. The budget should not, has not, and will not include ARPA money. This is money that's supposed to go directly to the people of Pennsylvania. And the way we're doing it here in Pennsylvania is that the General Assembly and the governor sit down and work this out, just like we did last week. And I'd like to make this the same thing. I think we'll have plenty of arguments over the budget, which I'm going to unveil next week. But this is, a lot. This is $1.7 billion in addition to what has already gone out that we have that is intended to be used to help individuals and businesses in Pennsylvania. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you again for everything.